Brake lines, brake lines, brake lines, brake lines, brake lines, brake lines. So right away you might be able to notice right down here, the bumper is still not painted and we haven't actually gotten around to do the bodywork yet. Because the only thing I hate more than doing brake lines is doing bodywork. If you own Tahoe, a GM SUV, a truck, or even a car, or anything they built back in the early 2000s or whatever, you know exactly what even the 90s, you know exactly what I'm talking about, exactly what I'm about to go through. Luckily, it's made a little bit easier because you could get the lines pre-bent and pre-flared and everything. So you don't have to deal with flaring them yourself and running them and bending them and all that garbage. But it's still not fun, and I don't want to do it. But as we're in here, we are going to do a couple other things. I got a new master cylinder we're going to be putting on, and I'm going to be replacing the brake booster, which is a Hydra booster. I noticed it's getting a little wet underneath. Usually they'll leak at the seal where they connect to the master cylinder. So I figure, you know, with the mileage on it, and we're basically restoring this thing, we might as well change both of those. And for the brake lines, I kind of missed the memo, and I didn't get the fancy stainless steel ones. I got these OEM replacement, like plastic coated ones, which they're still a huge step up over the ones that are on there that have absolutely no coating on them. A lot of the late model Express vans run these lines, and I've worked on a lot of those, and I have, knock on wood, to this day, I have not done brake lines on an Express van because all of them have this coating on them, and as long as that coating isn't jeopardized in any way, they seem to hold up a hell of a lot better than the brake lines on these things. But yeah, they do make stainless ones. They're a little more expensive than these. These are AC Delco. I paid, I think, 60 bucks for the entire kit, and the stainless, I think they're like 100 and something bucks, 150, I don't know. These may have been a little more. They may have been closer to 80. I honestly, I bought these things a week after getting this thing from auction, and they've just been sitting in the basement unopened in the box for 2.5 years. So let's break into this. I'm gonna start off with the brake booster. We're gonna get that Hydra boost swapped out, and we'll crawl underneath and we'll replace the brake lines. So I am going to link this stuff down in the description as usual, but right here we have an AC Delco master cylinder, and when it comes to the Hydra Boost itself, you just got to bite the bullet and get the OEM one. This isn't even AC Delco. This is friggin' pricey GM genuine. I've done a lot of these things, and the Cardones, they are absolute trash. Yeah, they're substantially cheaper, but when it comes down to it, you're just better off getting one from the dealer. A lot of times these rods on the Cardone ones, I've run into them where they're not long enough, or this lip here just isn't machined long enough. So I had to come in here and weld a little, you know, give it a little tack and kind of grind it down to make it longer, because they're just built like crap, like they don't fit right, and the brake pedal will feel mushy, and it's a huge thing. So just get it from the dealer if you do want to replace it. And yeah, we got the master cylinder. It wasn't too expensive, and it is an AC Delco, so we're going pretty much all OEM on this. All right, so I got the booster in, and I unintentionally kind of broke the brake pedal switch when I was pulling it off, and just the cover popped off. And looking in here, I'm going to replace this. I don't know if you're going to be able to see this, but it's really black and crusty right up there. That connection looks pretty shitty, and it's kind of burnt on the plastic where it looks like it was kind of making a poor connection. So I got one of these coming on the way, but right now, let's hop inside. We're going to start breaking into the brake lines and play a little game I like to call How Bad Are They? Now, I haven't started it up since I put the booster in, so let's just start it up. I want to turn the steering wheel, kind of bleed the power steering, press the brake pedal a bunch of times. We didn't lose a lot of fluid, so I shouldn't really have to top it off too much. But yeah, that feels great, just like it did before. Now to play How Bad Are They, it's actually very, very simple. All we're gonna do is turn the vehicle on and stomp on the brake pedal with all of our might, as if your most prized possession or the thing you value the most is right in front of you in the middle of the road. So let's start it up. And I definitely do not recommend playing this game if you have no intention of replacing the brake lines on the spot, or if you need the vehicle for anything that requires brakes. So let's go ahead and just Okay, I guess they're not very bad at all. Well, the obvious purpose of playing that is to get one of the crusty brake lines to burst and see where the weakest link in the system was. Now, unfortunately, or fortunately, I don't know what to say. I guess Tahiti's lines aren't as bad as I thought they were, but they're still pretty crusty, and we are still going to be replacing them. So let me get this thing up in the air. I guess we'll start breaking down the front, and we'll just swap them out one by one. So coming off the master cylinder, we're going to have two lines that come out and they go into the proportioning valve. From there, two lines are going to come out from the proportioning valve, run down the frame rail to the center of the vehicle, right under the driver door about, to the ABS module or the ABS block. Now from there, the lines are going to split off and go to each wheel, and that's how the ABS is going to control them. So from there, we're going to have one line going out along the frame rail up to the front left tire. Another one's going to come out, go along the frame rail, cut across the front of the cross member, or the where the front frame horns are joined together, and it's going to go over to that wheel, also running along the frame. For the back, now if you have StabiliTrak or traction control, not ABS, but actual traction control, you're going to have two lines going to the back wheels. There's going to be one going to the back left, one going to the back right, which is going to be a little more difficult. If you don't have traction control, you're just going to have one line that's going to come off that block, go to the rear. Now this kit I got, it doesn't have a line that's on the axle that goes, across the axle to the two calipers. So I'm going to probably go to AutoZone, make some copper stuff up, like the easy nickel, whatever it is, bendable brake line for the axle. But for everything else, it should be in the kit and pre-bent. And if we just pop under here, right here is the ABS brick. And you'll see, I believe these two lower ones here are the inputs, so the brake fluid coming in, and then the three up top are going to be going to all the wheels. So we're just going to disconnect it from here, disconnect them to each wheel. I think I'm actually going to start with the master. I'm going to get the brake fluid out of that, pull that out, put the new one in, run those lines down into here, and then I'll just work my way around. I mean, that's how I think I'm going to do it, but a lot of this stuff, you could see the way they come out, they're all kind of just perfectly stacked on each other, so you're going to have to weave them in and out of each other to get them in the right spot. So I know it's not going to be that simple, but I'm going to start with that, and yeah, we'll see how it goes. right, guys, I had to stop for a second to give you some valuable information here. I got the master out, and I just made a little diagram to kind of figure out where everything goes. So coming off the prop valve here, we have the two hoses, the main hoses that go down to the block, and then they kind of pass through this cluster of a clip where they're all kind of just stacked on top of each other. You got to take the two top hoses out, the two top lines to get the bottom ones out, and they got to go back in a specific way or everything's going to be kind of tangled with each other and it's not going to clip together. So if we take a look right here, I made this little diagram of the ABS block itself, if we're looking at it where the lines go in. And as you can see, coming off the prop valve, looking at it from the wheel well, the left side is going to the right side bottom. Right side is going to the left side bottom. And that's just if we're looking at it like this. So there's a left port and there's a right port. And then this one's going to the front left wheel, front right wheel, and then that one's going to the rear. It actually curls right out and goes straight down the frame rails of the back axle. And then right here, what kind of looks like boobs is a crude diagram of that clip. Everything's kind of angled in like that. The top left here goes to the right front wheel, front left, the bottom left. Prop valve left side, remember looking at it, that's the bottom right, and then the prop valve right side, it goes in there. So that's just a guide to get them back into those clips correctly when it does come time to, you know, kind of clip everything into place and make the connections. Also, I managed to find what I believe is the weakest link in the system here, because after they come through that clip there, they go on top of the frame, and then you'll see they come in here and then they curl over and go to the block. So right here, there's this clip. I took the harness off of it, and then the brake lines pass through it, that same type of clip that I just showed you the diagram for. And as I pop these out, they instantly started leaking. It's leaking here, and it's leaking right where I went through the clip. So yeah, without a doubt, those babies were gonna burst probably any day now. All right, so I managed to get all of the lines removed, well, pretty much all of them. The only one remaining is from here over to the passenger front wheel, which I'm not even too sure how I'm gonna get out because I have no room in front of this thing to like fish a new line in, and I had to cut this just to get it out, but we'll rip the rest of that out later, figure it out. Right now I'm gonna start fishing the new ones in. Little tip, the rear, if you don't have stability track or traction control and you have that single rear line, goes along the frame rail, along the driver's side frame on the left rear wheel, and then it branches over, and you gotta take the spare tire down to get that out. I'm gonna link a video down below. My spare tire was friggin' stuck. The safety latch was stuck, so that stupid thing wouldn't come down. There's a really nice video online showing exactly how to get up there and release it, which I did manage to do. And then after that, I was able to get to that fitting disconnected from the hose, and luckily, mine wasn't frozen, so the nut came right off the hose. And just to get that out, a little tip, I ended up removing the bracket that holds it to the top of the frame. And then I was able to, after unclipping it from the frame, I was able to pull it through, and then I could zip the nut out that way, and there's a lot more room to swing the wrench, so just something I definitely recommend trying if you are doing this job. And yeah, basically we're gonna start putting these in from here to the ABS block, as well as from the ABS block to the rear. And I'm just gonna go opposite of removal, so kind of stack them one by one into that clip in order, so everything is gonna be layered nicely and flow correctly and not get tangled on each other. And then once this is together, we'll hop on over to the other side somehow and see if I can run that last line to the right front. So with all the lines ran into the ABS block and my chicken pot pie heating up in the microwave behind me, there's pretty much just one thing left to do. Well, two, I gotta still run the hard line to the right front wheel. I only have 2 jack stands, so I gotta get this side together, drop the back down, put that jack stand on that side, take that wheel off, take the wheel liner out, fish it in, blah, blah, blah. Basically everything you just saw me do. And we need to hook up the hard lines to the brake hoses. Now for running the hard lines, I got them, I think pretty much in the factory locations. They all fit into that clip fine. Nothing's rubbing on anything. They all screwed into the ABS block fine. Everything's tightened down. With the exception of this last one that needs to go to the right front wheel. So for the brake hoses, obviously I'm not gonna reuse the ones that aren't here, and I was going to just replace them with OEM stuff, and then I realized, you know what, I'm building this thing to compete with modern SUVs and performance trucks of today, so why don't we just chuck those things in the trash and install some nice fancy stainless hoses. Now, I had a little trouble getting a hold of these. I ordered a set off of Summer Racing. I typed all my info in. They sent me a set that turned out it was just for 2,500 trucks. So I sent that back, and I found this other set. I'm gonna link them down below. I'm not sure of the brand. It doesn't have it on the slip, but I mean, it says Stop Flex on here. I don't know if that's the brand or not. But yeah, these babies, they weren't cheap. They were like $185 for the set of 5. That's right, 5. So this actually comes with the little braided hose that goes from the axle up to the body, as well as the hoses for each wheel. On top of that, they are friggin' pretty much an OEM replacement style hose for the hoses that are on this thing right now. Look at this. I mean, they have the factory style bracket that mounts to the hub. They got the little bracket that mounts to the control arm. I kind of just roughly test fitted one. They line up nicely. They seem to have enough length to clip onto the caliper and, you know, when you turn and everything. So if you're getting braided hoses and you have one of these that does not have traction control, I definitely recommend this set. But let's get these babies hooked up. I'll drop her down, get this last one hooked up, and then we'll go for a test drive. we have more parts. Because as you saw, the right rear bleeder screw broke off, left rear was stuck, managed to free it up. It's completely clogged, can't get fluid to come out through it. I just pulled it out and kind of gravity bled the caliper that way, but in the long run it has to be changed. So I ran down to AutoZone because they're the only people open at this time, and I really want to get this video out to you guys this weekend. But yeah, 2 rear calipers, 65 bucks a pop after the core charge. I'm gonna get them swapped out, finish up the bleeding. All other brake connections are made, new masters in, obviously. And yeah, those brake hoses, the Stop Flex by, the brand is Classic Tube. Totally recommend them, at least by the install. They clipped in without a problem. They fit all the factory mounting points to the perfect length. That center brake hose where it connects to the axle and goes up to the frame, perfect fit. They're pricey, but yeah, as far as the install goes, they're definitely clean and simple, and I'll let you know once we drive it if I notice any feeling in the pedal. But to be honest, we changed basically everything in the brake system, so I can't really attribute the brake pedal being any firmer just because of those hoses. So yeah, you'll have to take that with a grain of salt. In addition to that, I did go and run a 3/16 line on the back axle because that kit doesn't come with the brake line for the axle. And this is just this nickel copper stuff, super easy to bend. Got it from AutoZone. You'll need a 30-inch and a 40-inch length if you do want to get a pre-made one, and it does have to be a double flare. I think that's pretty much it. So let me pop these on, get the air out. I'll get the wheels on. We'll do one last final kind of leak check. Then it's time to go for a test drive. All right, so I got the wheels on. She's back on the ground. Calipers are swapped out. And this isn't the last we're going to be working on her brakes. Both back calipers, the sliders were seized, and the brake pads are basically metal to metal. They're all messed up from heat. They got cracks in them. So yeah, we're going to have to upgrade them to something a little bit better. Anyway, one last practice that you want to do. Start her up, preferably with your garage door open. Now, once again, just stand on that pedal like your life depended on it. And by doing that, with the engine running, you have that extra assistance from the brake booster. So you're really putting a lot of pressure through those lines. You want to go around, check all the fittings, check the ABS block where the hoses meet the lines, where the hoses meet the calipers, and just make sure there are no drips, no leaks. And one last thing I want to add, when it comes to bleeding this with the ABS, in my experience, I didn't need a scan tool to run the ABS motor to get the air out of the system. As long as you're not replacing that block, you should be all right. And like I said, I never had to use it. The only instance where I did was when I actually replaced that ABS block on a couple of Express fans. And when that happens and there's air in that block and you know it's never been installed in the vehicle before, yeah, you're gonna need a scan tool to run that motor to get the fluid to flow through it and to each wheel. Once again, we didn't change that. I got her all bled out. She should be fine. We're gonna test the ABS, see if we get it to kick on. But let's get out of here, take her for a drive, and see if she stops any better. Ooh, she's gonna need a battery. Ooh. Ah, crap, I left the spare tire back there. All right, so it's night now. Yep, there's a button here. Whenever I don't want to do it, I freaking put it on. Ha! Initial impressions. Nothing feels weird. The pedal is at least as firm as it was before I did all this. And I just need to find a place to... Oh, shh. Yeah, I forgot. I have a lot of parts in the trunk. Well, they're already forward. It's not like I have the power to throw them backwards, so we should be good from here on out. Yeah, so the pedal feels the same, so that's good. We got all the air out. It definitely feels firmer the further you go down with it. Like the initial press, it's pretty much the same, and then the harder you press it, you could feel there's more resistance. I guess that's either the swamp water that's been replaced with brake fluid, or the stainless hoses. It could be the Hydro Boost, but I mean, most likely it's just an accumulation of everything that just kind of firmed the pedal up. But I really want to see if if I could get these babies to lock up. And I'm really afraid of what the hell's gonna happen to all the stuff in the back. I've never actually got to brake with this thing with confidence, if that makes any sense. Like, whenever I would have to stop short in traffic, or especially when I was like towing, I would always just press as hard as I needed to and just kind of look in my rearview mirror to make sure there's not someone behind me that, you know, just try to regulate the brake pressure to not blow a brake line. That's how I've been driving for 3 years. It's probably not safe, but, you know, I got by this far, and hell, when I stomped on the brake pedal, it didn't, you know, blow any lines out, so I guess that was a good thing. But yeah, definitely I think the biggest change is going to be I'm not going to be in fear of my brake lines rupturing when I do need to actually use the brakes. Nobody's behind me. Both feet. Nah, shit, somebody. All right. She stops. Yeah, I definitely recommend going to these hoses. I can't stress enough how easy the install was. And I mean, it makes sense because you think about it, you got a rubber hose, especially in this, you got 5 of them. You got one at each wheel plus the one in the center. Every time you press the brake, especially as like this thing, it has like 200 and something thousand miles on it with age. When you hit the brake, that hose is gonna wanna expand. And if they're new, then it's not gonna expand as much, but by going to a braided hose, it has that braided covering on it. So when you really stomp on the brake, it's not going to flex out as much. It's going to kind of keep that pressure in, and instead of going outward, it's going to go forward and have a little extra pressure to push that piston inside the caliper. So it totally makes sense to go to them. And I mean, yeah, if you're doing the whole brake system over, especially, you know, with this, we're building this thing, it's going to be friggin' fast as hell. I don't want to spare any expense when it comes to that stuff, which is, once again, why I say we're not exactly done with the brakes yet. So we do have another video coming. Let's try to give her one more hit. Oh yeah, she stops. ABS just turned on too. I felt the pedal pulsate. Oh yeah, ABS works. Pedal still feels good, so there wasn't any air that was like trapped in the module that was gonna get pushed out and cause a problem. Like I said, I never had an issue with it. It's just when you change that module and it has no fluid in it, it's a nightmare, and you just have to get a scan tool to do it. Otherwise, I never had an issue. But as always, I'm gonna link everything I use down in the description, those hoses, the brake kit I got, and I'm gonna try to find the stainless kit. I'm gonna try to find the 2 separate ones. So if you have traction control, remember I said you're gonna have an extra brake line. So I'll try to find both of those, put them down there. Anything else I used in the video. And if you like this, or if it helped you out with the brakes, you know, the little diagram, me showing you where they kind of go, how to route them one by one, definitely leave a comment or like the video. It's going to help it out. Let this project move along a little bit faster. But for now, that's going to do it for this one, guys. I got to go home, get cleaned up because ooh, I smell rank. And I'll see you in a few days with the Trans Am again.